Welcome to the fifth presentation in the Wakefield Country Day School free online summer speakers series. My name is Paul Larner and I am chairman of the board. Our school is delighted to make available this summer via Zoom an esteemed, diverse, and fascinating group of speakers. To learn of future speakers and register, please go to wcdsva.org. Now for today's speaker. The vast majority of adult Americans, their home is their largest investment. Few realize that on a very long-term perspective, meaning 100 years or more, homes are not a particularly profitable investment. Recent booms and busts in the single-family market, beginning in the early 2000s, have resulted in a transition in thinking that homes can be more like a tradable commodity. To that proposition, as someone who bought his first single-family investment home at 18, I say, Cheri Woodard brings a special perspective to a unique niche market, Rappahannock and several surrounding counties. She has lived here for 40 years and has operated several businesses with her husband Martin with great success. Cheri, I'm anxious to hear what is going on with what for many of us is our biggest investment.
Thank you, Paul, and everybody, thanks for joining us today. I'll be sharing my view of the real estate market, and it has been a couple of fascinating months we've just been through. But before I begin, I did want to introduce Emily Harris. She's my office manager, and we have a great collaboration and enjoy working together. And if we get into some questions where we need some MLS data, then Emily will be able to give us answers pretty quickly.
Hi, everyone.
The first thing we want to say is nobody could have predicted 2020. And we feel a little bit like we're not in Kansas anymore. We're like Dorothy following the yellow brick road into another world. She was trying to get to the city, the Emerald City, and we don't know exactly where we're going. The motivations for buyers today are really different, and it's made our market very complex. The buyers really use the internet as an incredible tool. They come prepared about prices, location, what things sold for in the past, quality, style. Some of them, we have to answer at least 30 questions before they'll even come out to view a property. When we, in the past, we always said, we're selling dreams. People have dreams about living in the country. Well, they still do, but now the motivation is quite different. Back in March, when things were really closing down, our business was much slower. And we're going to look at results soon that will show us this first and second quarter. We're now in the third quarter, and things really picked up in June and July. So we'll have a look at all of that. So what have I noticed, and we've noticed in this market? The inventory is really low. And there's several reasons for that. One is sellers are staying in their home much longer than they might have in other years. They feel a little worried about where they're going. Maybe they were all set to go to a senior place in Charlottesville. But now that doesn't sound so good because many of the senior places have sort of locked down their doors and people can't come and go freely. Or it just feels too iffy for them to move. So I think that's the biggest reason that the inventory is so much lower. That plus things are selling faster. Pricing is super important. It's one of the biggest keys we've always had. Buyers still want good deals. They do want internet. And I'd say the reality of the internet is the biggest game changer we're really looking at. And if we don't have a home that has good internet or the possibility of having good internet, then those buyers are almost 100% willing to walk away. Right now, the fear of the pandemic has brought everybody, and what is beyond. We keep hearing terrible things about next fall or this coming fall. And so that is creating more panic and more pushing the desire to own something before we get into the fall season. Many of the buyers have told me they want their own vacation spots. These are families that used to go all over the United States and Europe, and now they just feel they can't travel safely. So they want their place, their special place in the country. And that's really working to our benefit, not just in Rappahannock, but Culpeper, Madison, Fauquier, everybody is seeing that same push. Now this chart will look at results January through June, so that's first and second quarter, but we'll be talking about the second quarter. If you look at the chart, you'll see for pricing, it breaks down each category. The $250,000 to $500,000 price range in the first and second quarter combined, 22 sales, $500,000 to $1 million, 11, and over $1 million, just 1. So that shows you that the current pricing structure is still pretty solid. We see this pretty much year to year, that $250,000 to $500,000 price range is the one we sell the most in. This year, quarter two was up compared to 2019. Average home sales prices did increase also, and the days on market, DOM, decreased. These are averages, so that's not true for every property. So currently, we took a look at, as of today, there are 35 active listings. So when a buyer calls us and wants to be in Rappahannock, there are only 38 properties we can show them. We have 26 properties currently under contract for a total of 64 properties in Rappahannock. And normally we might have 80 to 90 in general. So that's an illustration that the listings are low, that we need more inventory in order to keep up the sales pace. Since the end of June, we've also had two more sales over $1 million. So now there's a total of three properties over $1 million. Typically, in any year, we may only see 1 to 3 over $1 million sales in Rappahannock. If you go to Fauquier County, you'll see quite a bit more. Culpeper, you probably won't see any, and Madison, you probably won't see any. But Rappahannock will always have a couple, but not a huge amount. This also I want to illustrate a little bit of story, again, about pricing. And you can see that 22 and the 250,000 to 500,000. In February of this year, I was fortunate enough to get to work with John McCaslin, the Rappahannock news editor, and helping him sell his home. And he has a beautiful log cabin, very small, but beautiful views and privacy, but it's part of a community that's located off of Route 522. When I put John's home on the market at the end of February, early March, I was astounded by the response. I had over 50 calls in a day on that property and many, many requests for showing it. Because John puts the newspaper out from his home, basically, he had very good internet there, I had to limit the number of days, and I also had to be at every showing. So it was quite fascinating to get to talk to so many buyers in this short period. We went under contract by April, so it didn't last that long, but I'm still getting calls from people who saw it and still see it on Zillow and are calling to say, I want to see that writer's cabin. So pricing is really, really an important thing. And that under 500, we were at 539 on John's property. So it was close enough to that under 500 that it pushed a lot of demand. In land and farm, we're seeing some really interesting things. That had gotten kind of soft in the market. The biggest group that we see that we sell in is going to be the 25 to 50 acre group. And through January through June, there have been 5 properties. Currently, there's 39 properties. 6 of them are under contract for a total of 30. There are 39 active, 6 are under contract for a total of 45 pieces of land. Again, in Rappahannock, we saw years ago, back in 2005, there was one property in Flint Hill that sold for $20,000 an acre. And it was big talk all over the county. And all sellers decided that their land was worth $20,000 an acre. And we still hear from people today, isn't that the current price, $20,000 an acre? No, this shows you the average price for raw land right now is $6,500. Now, premium land with views, river frontage, water, ponds, things like that, we will see more. And we'll see $12,000, $13,000 an acre for raw land. But the basic land, if you lump it all together, is about $6,500. We are also seeing for raw land, the contractors are telling me that they're booked now for 2 years, because the home building process takes approximately 2 years from start to finish. Some people can do it in 15 months, but most people take 2 years lining up their architect, doing the site plan, getting all their permits. And we have some excellent contractors in Rappahannock. And when I posed the question to them, they said they're very happy. They are booked solid. So some people are seeing Rappahannock as a long-term solution, because to build a home here, besides being expensive, it takes a while, and they can't just go ahead and move out. We were happy to see the increase in the land and farm market. So the question is this a good time to sell? And what's the value in my property? The internet provides so much data, and people are coming with lots of information. So it has made a pretty big game-changing environment. The pandemic is definitely driving the push to come to the country. One recent listing I saw said, escape the madness of the city, work from home with broadband. And that's how they were trying to sell that particular house, which was in Culpeper. None of us know how long this is really going to last. So if there is a seller who wants to sell, I would recommend that it's a good time. They can also look at what for all of us as realtors, everybody is using a mortgage or getting a mortgage. And one of the things that happens when you sell land or a home is, and there's a bank loan, there has to be an appraisal. And in the appraisal, we can't make up a price that's too high and then tell the appraiser, hit that price. The appraiser is looking for comparable sales and trying to give a good methodology to the process. It's often very difficult because we have such a small market. And part of my job as a seller's agent is to meet the appraiser and work with the appraiser, because they do not know the market as well as I do. So I try and be helpful in that way. Getting a home all the way from being under contract to settlement, there's a lot of steps for a residence. And if you're a seller and you're living in your home, you want to be mindful that it is an interruption to your daily life. There's home inspections, septic inspections, well inspections, the appraisal, and then wood destroying insect inspections. And there may be other things that the buyer is requesting. But given all that, it's still a good time to sell. The market is active and people are out there who want to buy. Rappahannock is very popular because the proximity to DC and Northern Virginia and Maryland, where people will maybe keep their base home and move out here on a part-time level. We are hearing some stories, excuse me, that come out of Hamptons and other places that buyers are so willing to pay double in price. They're willing to do no home inspections. And I would say that may be true up there. I haven't personally heard that from anyone but some buyers telling me. But it is not true in Rappahannock. In Rappahannock, people do want to buy, but they're not paying double the prices, and they are certainly going through all their inspections. So now I'd like to open the floor to questions that anybody might have for me. And I also, do we still have Jessica with us? She maybe had.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Well, Jessica happens to be a client that we're currently working with, and I thought it might be interesting for Jessica to just speak a moment about the invasion of having people in your home and all these inspections. We're pretty far along. We do have a contract on Jessica's home. But I thought it might be interesting for people to hear. Many of you know Jessica as the beloved headmistress of Wakefield. So if you wouldn't mind just telling us what it's been like for you in COVID as a seller.
Thank you. First of all, it was very interesting, everything that you shared. And I had also heard all those stories of bidding wars and people out there. And it seems like maybe it's more apocryphal than real. But from the seller standpoint, I've just been really impressed with how Cheri and Emily and her whole crew have really taken the COVID situation seriously. It's been awkward. We were nervous at first. We felt like, can't we just do this virtually? Can't you just take your phone and go around and show the house? And Cheri told us a buyer's not going to buy in that respect. They'll see it, they may get interested, but they have to have the feel. They have to walk in the house and say, this is it. And so working with the restrictions of people having to wear masks and Cheri promising no one's going to be touching anything and we will be as careful as we can. It gave us peace of mind, but it definitely is a different world than the way it was before March.
Well, it has been a pleasure working with you, but there's challenges, and people who have any kind of immune system problem, they're even more worried about realtors coming in. So I think the realtors as a general practice have really established a high level of sanitizing and making sure that we don't have anybody coming in that's questionable. And I often, if there's children, I ask, it's young ones, I ask the parents, one of them to stay outside, and then we'll take turns swapping around.
I had one question for you, which is, with the whole new world of everyone coming prepared, having already looked for things on the internet and coming with questions and already having done their comparisons, is that frustrating to you as an agent? Is the creativity where you used to put the list together and provide, is it different? Is it?
Well, it's really different. I can say that. It's, you know, the thing about the internet is people can make houses look really good.
Yeah.
They wide angle photography. They put special filters on.
Right.
And then you get there and the houses have no soul, no real beautiful effects. And yet on the line, they were sure this was going to be the house that they were going to want.
Right.
So I work with people. I know the area and I can suggest things. Usually after the first time they go out with me, they're more willing to say, well, what do you think? What else do you have?
Right.
But they just love hunting on the internet. I mean, it is a game changer.
Yeah.
For what what they come back with and compile. And before they come, they've done a bunch of Googling, you know, look at the maps, look at neighbors, if there's, you know, a big home or development and they're buying something with 80 acres, they want to know everything that's going to be all around them.
Right.
So that's different.
Mhm.
They're much, I'd say in general, much more sophisticated
Right.
than what we've been used to.
Hey, Cheri, this is Paul. I have a question.
Okay.
If you're sitting in your office, what is the ideal telephone call for you to receive for someone who wants to list their property? You want a small house on 5 acres at 250,000? You want something at 500,000 with 25 acres? What can you sell 5 of in a month? What's your heartthrob for a listing?
John McCaslin's cabin was the most heartthrob because of the price and the pictures. But as I said to people, if I'd had 50 of these, I could have sold all 50. But in general, we go from, I've got a new listing coming up in Flint Hill. That's a small home right on the main street. We just listed a property that's 50 acres with river frontage. It's over $1 million. We've got all ranges. I don't have a favorite. What I'd love to have is a great client to work with. And that matters the most to me. And as long as they understand what we need to do to get the work done, and we'll take any direction, like how to unclutter the house or how to do things to make your house more saleable.
Right.
The over $1 million generally are going to take a longer time. And if people,
Right.
you know, it depends where they are. Obviously, if they've got a grand home, it's going to be 2 million, 3 million. But I like all of them. I don't have, some of them, we have found that the littlest ones can take the most work, which seems contrary, but it's true.
Do you find that the Rappahannock County is really important to buyers? I mean, most buyers want to know about the house, the property, and whether, I'm curious whether it's in Culpeper or Madison or Rappahannock. Is that a compelling factor for buyers?
Well, there's not that much. We sold a home to a piece of land to Wendy Rieger, Channel 4 news anchor, and she talks about Rappahannock so much now that people have said that follow her, you know, that watch her. They're like, I want a home in Rappahannock because Wendy says it's great. You know, that's there aren't that many that do that, but other people just do a big search. And it can include Culpeper, Fauquier, Rappahannock, Madison. I had one couple recently that were really interested in Rappahannock, but our inventory is so small, they couldn't find what they wanted. And then we went all through Fauquier County looking and ended up with a really nice farm in Culpeper that they're under contract for. So Rappahannock, definitely, you know, people say, my friends live here. But I think it's bigger than that, Paul. I think they're looking more at the area. And if they have friends in Rappahannock, that may help them want to choose it. But it's more about finding the property they want at the price they think is good.
Right, and my last question is, out of 10 buyers, how many are new to Rappahannock County versus trading up within the county or moving here from, you know, Culpeper or Madison?
I would say almost 80% are new, coming in now. And before it might have been more, oh, I have a friend that lives here and I've come out. I like to hike. The national park is huge for us in Sperryville and Rappahannock. Madison doesn't have access to the park in their county, and we do. So I think that people know about Sperryville, Rappahannock. The reason I say Sperryville is of course, my office is in Sperryville, So we come up in a lot of searches, but there is a big interest in Sperryville right at the moment. So that puts you in Rappahannock County. So it's more about having, we're matchmakers, trying to find what people want with limited amounts of inventory can be really challenging. Does that answer your question?
Hey, Cheri, it's Claire Lindsay. Just wanted to know, can you elaborate on why the increased interest in Sperryville? I can imagine my own reasons why you would say that, but I'd like to hear more about that.
Well, it seems that we're the drinking capital of the county. No, I think we counted up one time, there were this was back before COVID. There were at least 13, not bars, but restaurants, places where you could have some liquid. And we do have breweries, young people that are coming out. I would say this, we're seeing a younger group coming out in Sperryville than we do any other place. And I think that's definitely because of the drinking facilities. You can go to the beer garden, you can go down to Pendruid. When Pendruid, I don't know how many people know, but Pendruid is the three Carney brothers, and they're now on Eldon Farms, and they're building a very modern brewery, and they'll be off of 522. And I imagine when that goes active, that's going to bring even quite a bit more people to Sperryville. I think, well, for instance, Three Blacksmiths, they got so much coverage in the press the minute they opened almost. Again, that brought people to Sperryville. And it's also the gateway to the park. So you kind of go through Sperryville to get up to where you enter the park. So you get just people saying, oh, I always drive through Sperryville. I love it there. I think those are the main things I can point to. Little Washington has great qualities, and it's beautiful, and it's the county seat. And one time it was, I'd say Little Washington was like, oh, I want to be in Little Washington. But currently, even with the inn being there, it seems from a real estate perspective that Sperryville is a little more, especially for the younger people coming in. And we are seeing people in their 40s and 35, 40, 45, 50. And before, it seemed like we were seeing more people in their late 50s, 60s, starting out on wanting to look at property. But now we're seeing younger people, which I'm really glad because they have children. So I think there'll be more children who can go to the schools, and they're happy about Wakefield Country Day School. They're happy about the other schools and what's available here, because I will be honest, I think most people are not real thrilled about having to do homeschooling with their children for another year. So if they can feel that they're safe in one of the schools that we have here, which are small, that's another plus just for the county. Does that help?
Just a question. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Claire.
Oh, I was just going to ask if you have heard anything new about the sale of Eldon, or whether this is as much an experiment to see what the property is worth. Have you been contacted at all about, or I don't even know if you can say, about with any serious buyers for that property?
No, not me personally.
Okay.
I keep track with some of the guys on the farm, and some of my contacts who said before COVID, there was one person who was interested, but I don't know if that person has surfaced again.
Okay, thank you.
I thought it was kind of interesting that they were, knowing they were for sale, and then they invited or made a deal with the brewery to come set up on their property with a very long-term lease.
Yeah, me too. Thank you.
Yeah.
Cheri, I have
Cheri,
one.
there's, oh, go ahead.
Hi,
There's a
Cheri.
question. Go ahead, Nan.
It was Jessica. I'm sorry.
Hi, Cheri. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Do you have a
I'm good. It's good to join you this afternoon. I just had one comment and then a question. Somebody asked about why Sperryville. Well, I'm not biased at all, but Sperryville is the prettiest town in Rappahannock. So that's all there is. But I did want to ask about.
Okay, just tell them that you grew up here.
But my question is, in this COVID timeframe, what are you finding out of, what's the word on open houses? Have you been able to do that at all?
No, we don't. Nobody is really doing open houses. And everybody in the city, not everybody, but most of agents are able to have good enough internet to do virtual open houses. But we thought about it, we tried it, and we just don't have good enough broadband capacity to do a proper open house. It would
Okay,
be nice.
thanks.
Just
I
not
thought maybe with the different phases, I thought maybe there was perhaps some change. I know early on that was pretty strict in not doing open houses.
right. And I would say now I'm seeing more emails coming in about doing, okay, thanks. I see more emails coming in about open houses, only allowing 6 people in the home at a time. But out here, for us to get 6 people to come to an open house is a lot. So I don't think it would pay, and it's disruption to the sellers.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Jessica, you had another question?
Yes, you had mentioned the folks who were coming here for a dream getaway versus those coming here full time. Is there a percentage you're seeing of how many are choosing right now Rappahannock for full-time living, or just for the weekend, or?
I would say, like, for instance, going back to John McCaslin's cabin, we were thrilled because the person who bought it wanted to live here full time, and she's a younger person. So we were like, this is great. This is what we need for our community. Not that the weekenders aren't loved and they do great things, but to have a really strong community, I think we need to have full-time people who live here and have families. And I would say people still dream that they can make that work, and they want to, but the realities of making a living and where they work,
Right.
they're kind of trying, okay, maybe I can do 4 days a week here. But, and a lot of people are downsizing in the city. So maybe they went from a house to a small condo or an apartment, but they don't really have, I just don't think they have the means to totally come here and live full time at this point. So the answer is, I'm seeing a lot more people that it's still a weekend place.
Okay, all right, thank you.
We all get, well, we'll say all the realtors do get excited when we find a family
Right.
who wants to live here. This is great, and buy a home.
Cheri, there's a question for you in the chat room, which is, what are the prospects for getting good internet connection in the Flint Hill, Little Washington area of the county?
Well, if you live in a certain place, like Comcast cable is what we have in Sperryville, along with DSL. And Comcast, from what I can determine, is the best way to go. And I know in Flint Hill, like Bear Wallow has Comcast. There's different areas that Comcast has come into. One of the things, CenturyLink is in the Flint Hill area, and it just depends where that it goes. And I understood, but I haven't heard much more about it, that there was wiring going in underground that was going to bring high-speed internet in as far as the schools. I don't know if anyone else knows much about that. there for a while I saw people working on the road all the time, and now I haven't. It's either finished, but there's been no hoopla made about it if it is going somewhere. And internet, it seems like what COVID has done has brought to the attention of our supervisors and other governing people that broadband is here to stay. And Rappahannock has been pretty, or I'd say resistant to spending any money on bringing broadband, but I think we're going to have to address that. And it's showing up in all the kids who, they're being told to study from home and they can't. They don't have internet. So those are the prospects. I really start out most of my buyers by talking about the internet now. And we may focus on different properties, like maybe we're going to look in town because they need that internet and they can be happy in a town. But if they're down some country lane and if satellite's their only choice, that's really not good. Piedmont broadband has been pretty good in certain areas, and Virginia broadband, as you head down towards Culpeper, has also been pretty compelling for many people.
So Cheri, I think you probably just answered my next question, and that is if there were just one single thing that you would like to see in the county, whether it's a restaurant, a beer hall, or maybe it's internet, that would drive the velocity of sales and help real estate out, what would it be?
Internet. I mean, we've already got good zoning and we've got such beauty, such spectacular beauty that is hard to find. So we have those things, but the internet is such a component of our daily life now that we're falling behind on that area. So yes, I'd like to see us have better broadband everywhere. But I also understand from talking to the broadband people that when you have a landscape with mountains like we have, it's very difficult to really have internet access easily. And then of course it costs more, so then that makes it hard for people to purchase. That's about it, I think, Paul.
Do we have any other questions?
Paul, this is Claire again. Cheri, can you give us an update on the timing for the construction around Clevenger's Corner? And do you have any info on, besides housing, what's going to be going in there in the way of, grocery store, CVS,
Yeah.
anything like that?
Okay. I'm going to have to research that for you because I know
Sure.
when they opened, I don't know how badly COVID shut it down. I know it slowed it down, but I'll be happy to do some research and get back to you on that one. I read about it, it was, a pretty big planned community.
Yeah.
With stores and places to work and, houses, everything.
Yeah, it kind of worries me, but it also kind of would be cool to have a pharmacy closer.
Yeah. There's good and bad to everything, Claire.
Thank you.
But I'll do some research and get back to you on that.
Oh, that's okay, Cheri, but yeah, if you just happen to be doing it anyway.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because you can see more and more, the roads are more crowded now than ever.
Oh, yeah.
There were a couple months during COVID where it looked like we lived in the 1900s. We did not see maybe one or two cars. Nobody was walking anywhere. It was kind of spooky, really. But now we're back to days of motorcycles and trucks and all kinds of, I'm noticing, I don't know if you do, Claire, I know you're off of 231, but we notice a lot more traffic on 231. And we can hear the big trucks early in the morning going down the valley.
Oh, yeah, those trucks, it feels like 81 sometimes.
Yeah. Okay, well, I didn't know if we could hear it where you live, but we can
Yeah.
all the same. We're just hearing so much more traffic than I can
Yeah.
ever remember hearing. So.
Cheri, Jeff Day here. You had talked about the numbers are trending younger for people moving into the county. And other than internet and restaurants or bars or something, amenities outside their homes, what are they looking for that's different than an older set or from previous years? And how are they doing things differently in terms of searching? Like, how are the interactions different with you?
Well, primarily, the younger people are bringing their own ideas with them. I mean, we can tell them how great the county is and what we have, but we're, in general, an older, grayer community. So I think they're bringing new life, new ideas. They want to be part of a community. They really do want to be part of a community. And the people we've sold in that age group are absolutely loving the things that, again, COVID has interrupted some of this, but the things that they found when they moved here. And we try to share with the clients coming in all of the little known things like Waterpenny. I always take people to Waterpenny because it isn't somewhere you'd normally think to go, but you have to go there and see you can get your vegetables and put your money in the box. It's really, it's so unique that they love that. Again, we can point out art galleries. There's a lot of things that we haven't been able to do during COVID. But I don't see them wanting to change things. The way they're searching, definitely with the internet. That's hands down. That's their biggest difference. They come prepared. They're just more comfortable in the internet world than the few people who were in their 60s, 70s that were looking. So I think they admire what's here. They're very open. In the past, I was thinking back to 2005, when the housing boom was on. I think people coming to Rappahannock, it was like it was on their bucket list. They had to have a country home. They didn't have any soul necessarily in that decision. They just had a bucket list and they had to have a home. Now it's really important. I want this home because I'm afraid to live in the city, or I'm afraid of the next pandemic. I want to feel more self-sufficient. I want to have space around me, but I want to have people that live in the community that I like, and I can be part of that community. And I think that nobody doubts, for the most part, everybody in Rappahannock is friendly. You can go in the store, people talk to you. It's just, in the restaurant, it's just a friendly place to live. So that is some of the draw and some of the differences with the market and who's coming in.
Are there differences in what they want in the homes themselves, like number of bedrooms or things inside the home?
Not so much. I mean, yeah, if they have kids, they usually want a 3 or 4 bedroom house. And, you know, with the older, the 60, 70 group, that was more, oh, I want one level living. And we don't have a lot of one level living, actually. So we weren't able to meet that request for people too much. Of course, if they build a house, they can have one level living. But I think the people coming in, it's not, they don't want McMansions, at least the people I'm working with. They just want enough room for their family. And, you know, a lot of times, the other thing I will say that's different, some of these people, the people who want to be weekenders, they're real focused on having an Airbnb in their home. And I have to explain to them, well, there's an Airbnb process and you need a special use permit. And, you know, I put them in touch with Michelle Summers, who's the person who's in charge of that. But it's interesting that they see their home as a way to make money, not necessarily as a great place to live. This is one segment of the group, but it's always younger. It's not the older people that want to do Airbnbs. So those are kind of the differences I see in that people now have more soul in finding this idyllic place. It isn't just on their bucket list. It's because life became so scary during the pandemic, and death is so present to us all. So I think that's just ingrained now in how we think.
Are there any other questions for Cheri? If not, then Cheri, I thank you for a wonderfully informative presentation and all your insights, not only into real estate, but the county.
Well, thank you all for having me. I enjoyed putting this together for you.
Thank you, Cheri.
Thank you,
Thanks, Cheri.
Cheri.
Thanks very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.